Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry I'm not able to be with you, but unfortunately my wife has gone down with COVID, and whilst I've tested negative, it's probably best if I don't come amongst you. So I'll give you my talk over Zoom, and here we go. Clearwing luring in the Brecon beacons. And I'll start with something that you might describe isn't actually a clearwing, but it is a day-flying lepidopteran. And it's one that I guess most of you know fairly well. In fact, I'm sure all of you know exactly what it is, a red admiral. But why should a red admiral, which is a day-flying lepidopteran, be so well known, where something like this, which is also a day-flying lepidopteran, isn't so well known? In fact, I think it's extremely badly known. I mean, how many people in the audience have actually seen the clearwing? If I was with you, I could see your hands going up, but I'm afraid I can't. But nevertheless, probably not many. And that is a clearwing. That's what I want to talk about today. One of the reasons why they're not terribly well known is their secretive habits. The larvae live usually inside the trunks of trees, and the only sign you can see of them is the exit hole. That's right in the middle of the screen there, which isn't terribly obvious to anybody. But nevertheless, there are things that can be extremely exciting. Look at that then. What about that? A pupal exuvia. That makes people rave in the clearwing world. That's the pupal exuvia of a Welsh clearwing. And it's amazing how many people will get really excited about this. If you look at the next slide, there we are looking for a pupal exuvia in a tree in the Brecon beacons. And you can see that there's one guy there in the middle there directing operations. That's me, of course. There's another guy, the biz treasurer at the bottom left-hand side looking at the tree. There's an expert facing you in the middle, and there are other people as well, desperate to find a pupal exuvia. Wouldn't you like to be there? So luring, well, you can buy lures nowadays for clearwings that attracts the males, and the traditional way is to put the lure into a little bag like a net and hang it from a tree. I can't call that a tea bag method. It looks just as though you're hanging tea bags in a tree. I do have a reputation for being a bit odd somehow, I don't know why. But it does occasionally work. I never managed to get it to work at all in Wales, but when I went over the border into England, I did manage to find the white-barred clearwing, and there's one flying there just about to land on the lure. But as I say, I found it very unsuccessful in Breconshire, and I almost gave up anything about clearwings at all, until I came across an article which mentioned these things. The pheromone trap, and you can see on the right hand side there's the trap installed. The bottom center is the way it comes in the post from our dear friends in Angling Lepidoptera Supplies, and you buy the lures themselves. As the little lures are little bungs or little tubes of plastic, and what you do is you put those into the trap, and hopefully you get the moths to arrive. What you don't do is pierce them or handle them in any way. They're very careful with them, and you've got to keep them in the freezer and all sorts to make sure they don't evaporate. But they do work. As you can see, there's a Vez clearwing for yellow-leg clearwing, the Vez lure for yellow-leg clearwing, and the 4 lure for red-tip clearwing. They're quite specific. Sorry, so how do you use them? Well, you can hang them up randomly in a lay-by somewhere and see if you can actually get a clearwing coming to your lure. Sometimes it works. Usually it doesn't. I reckon that method is about 1 in 10 you get a sight of a clearwing. But on that day, I parked my car going to see my wife in the hospital, because she was in there for a time. And lo and behold, yes, a yellow-leg clearwing came to my trap. I was really quite amazed. It was the first time I'd ever managed to get for many years, to get a clearwing coming to a lure. So I was really pleased about that. So it can work, but it's awfully time consuming. Or you can go to your own garden and try your luck, really, is the thing I would say about that. Try your luck and see if you can get something in your back garden. And sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But sometimes you have this there, you get out of bed, you wait until the sun comes out, because clearwings only fly in hot sunshine. They're very, very keen on being nice and warm. And it's got to be a hot sunny day before they'll fly at all. So there you are on your hot sunny day. You go to your trap in your apple tree, as was with me, and lo and behold, there's a clearwing actually in your trap. Fantastic. And you take the top off, and that's what's looking at you, the lunar hornet moth. What a spectacular beast. I think so anyway. And inside the trap, that's what you see. What you need to know is the habits of the moth before you're really able to have any success. So the lunar hornet moth, the larva feeds in salix trunks, but almost anywhere. It's one of the commoner ones. It flies in July and August, and it flies between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. It gets out of bed early, this one. It goes to sleep in the afternoon. So you really got to try to put your lure out in the morning. And if you're lucky, and there's some decent salix trunks about, and you put your lure out in the morning, on a hot, sunny morning, lo and behold, you might have that sight to see. Or you can choose a likely site. You can go to somewhere appropriate. So the current clearwing amazingly feeds on currents. So you need to go to somewhere where there are black or red currents, and in June and July. But this one isn't an early riser; it's a late riser. It gets out of bed in the afternoon, and so you've got to put your lure out in the afternoon between usually 2:30 till 6. With any luck, you'll find yourself a current clearwing. The books often say things that are possibly out of date by now. The books say this is the commonest of the clearwings, this and the lunar hornet moth. But I think it's declined a lot, and I'm finding it very difficult to find. I have planted some blackcurrants in my garden, though, so you never know. This is another one I got in my garden, the yellow leg clearwing. Supposed to be on the edge of its range, supposed to be fairly uncommon, but we find it really quite commonly. Mature oak, canker or cut, but I don't know what I've got anything special about oak trees around my garden, but I'm getting it quite commonly in my garden now. It flies a long flight season from May to August, and it flies between 12 and 7 p.m. And I don't know why it's such a long flight period, but I find it comes when it wants to come, sometime in the afternoon. Isn't that an attractive moth, though? There's a red tip clearwing. This one, June to August, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. more or less all day. And again, it's supposed to be common. But I'm not finding it so at all. We found it in very small numbers indeed. But what about that for a red tip moth? It's called a red tip clearwing because it's got red tips to its wings. A bit of logic there. Or you go to a known site, a site where it's already been recorded. That works for the Welsh clearwing because the Welsh clearwing is nationally rare. So people, of course, have gone out to find it. And it's been well researched. And there are quite a number of colonies to be found in Breconshire. So if you go to somewhere where it's been found before, then you've got a much better chance of finding it. And I did precisely that in June, between 8:30 and 1, so it's an early riser. And lo and behold, there's the Welsh clearwing. And what a fantastic thing it is. For a long time, the Welsh clearwing was known in England and Scotland, but not in Wales. But over the last 20 years or so, it's been found in quite a number of sites in Wales, all the way more or less down the Welsh borders. The six-belted clearwing. You can tell why it's called a six-belted clearwing. It's got 6 belts down its abdomen. The books say again it feeds on birchwood trefoil, which I'm sure it does, from June to August and flies all day. But we found it only flying in the really hottest part of the day, in midday around about that time, for some reason. It doesn't seem to fly all day at all. At least we couldn't find it all day. It would have to be in the very hottest part of the early afternoon. That's the kind of habitat it likes. It likes really hot habitat as well, stony ground, where the microclimate is really hot for the larva. And it feeds inside the stems of birchwood trefoil, stems and the roots of birchwood trefoil. The other thing that books don't tell you is it comes to the trap all right very quickly. Yes, it does, but it doesn't go into the trap. So you've got to be watching the trap to see them flying in and buzzing away again. They come to the trap, get bored very quickly and fly away. So if you put out a trap and come back hoping to be full of six-belted clearwings, you're probably going to be disappointed. The next thing to do is to start spreading the good news that there are actually clearwings to be found in Breconshire. And I did that, and to my surprise and delight, somebody came across and said, yes, I've had white-banded clearwing. This feeds on young alder, May to July, 11 till 4, but is declining rapidly. So we were very excited to find that we've still got it in this county. And it's called the white-banded, not because it has got one white band on its abdomen, but also it's very distinctive in that it has white bands on its antennae as well, which you can see. Very excited to get that. And how do you get them to pose for photography? That's really quite important to spread the good word, to spread the word about these things, because if you can get good photographs, then people get excited as well. So what I did in my garden, took it out of the trap and put it onto a salix trunk, so it looks natural. That's where it should be. That's, you can imagine it laying eggs, except it's a male, so it wouldn't do that, of course. But there we are. The lunar hornet moth in my garden on a salix trunk. And if you're really lucky, you can even do this. Get this sit on your finger. It's just rather nice to be able to do that. I would say, though, that there is a slight difficulty in having a camera in one hand, a moth in the other hand, and getting the two to actually relate to each other, to press the trigger on the camera, so to speak. And it can be quite a faff to do that. The other thing you need to be sure of is when you're trying to get your moth to pose, that it's not too hot, because if it's too hot in the sunshine, it'll fly away. So again, I try very hard to find some cool shade as near as I can to where I found the moth, and try the photography there, doing that. And again, the Welsh clearwing on the finger, what about that then? And you can tell it was a very, very recently emerged moth, because just at the bottom of the screen you can see a little drop of orange liquid, which the moths expel from their bodies when they've just come out of the pupa. All moths do that, and butterflies as well. Again, that's a Welsh clearwing on my finger. Great fun. But you really want to spread the news and have an event. Get the public around and explain to them how marvelous these things are. And there's a member of the public hanging up a trap, and there's some sheep. You might think sheep aren't terribly important, but they can be. It's been found that the Welsh clearwing in particular likes to have trees that have been in areas that have been grazed by sheep. So the trunks are clear, so that when the moth emerges from the trunk, it's got some sunshine to spread its wings. What's in the box? Well, that's what, of course, you can do when you get your clearwing out. You can open the top in the sunshine, and what happens? It probably is going to fly away. But you soon learn that the best thing to do is to get to a nice cool place in the shade to open the box before it flies away. And the results so far. Well, in 2021, when I first got some lures, there were 4 participants. People I just told at the end of the day that at the end of the season that they might like to have a go, and they did. And we found 4 clearwing species, which we thought was really successful. 2022, I've got a few more people around the project, so to speak. 9 participants, and we found 7 species, and they're the only species that have been recorded in Breconshire at all. But this year we've got potentially 21 participants. We've got a lot of people with, hopefully, with traps and with lures, and we'd love to be able to find more sites for all of the species that we've got, the 7 species we've got already, and possibly even find some new species as well. The 2 especially we're hoping to find are the red-belted and the large red-belted clearwings. The red-belted feeds on apple, and we know it's on the edge of its range. The large red-belted, according to the books, is common, but again, this is one that's declined. We think it's declined really massively, and maybe we had it before, maybe we've lost it now, but it'd be lovely to discover that. It feeds on old birch. So that's clearwings. And that's what happens when you let them go. When you take them out of the trap, you put them on a surface, and they're just all ready to fly away into the sunset. And that's a goodbye from the clearwing, and goodbye from me. Thank you.